Have you ever been sitting in the emergency room thinking, I've been here long enough, I'm just going to leave? Or maybe you've thought, they'll call me if something is wrong. Patients ask me about this more often than you might think. So today, I want to explain what can happen if you leave the emergency department before your evaluation is complete, and share my perspective after more than 25 years working in emergency medicine. Hello, everyone. I'm Kisha Pickford, a nurse practitioner with more than 25 years of emergency medicine experience, and welcome to ER Real Talk. This is the series where I answer real questions patients ask and explain what really happens behind the scenes in the emergency room from a provider's perspective. Now, waiting is probably the hardest part of an emergency room visit. Believe me, I understand. But before you decide to leave, I think it helps to understand what may still be happening behind the scenes. Now, just because your tests are done doesn't mean your visit is done. One of the biggest misunderstandings I see is when patients think, my blood has been drawn, my CT scan is finished, my X-ray is done, so I guess my visit is basically over. Well, actually, your evaluation may just be reaching one of the most important parts. So what happens behind the scenes? Once your tests are completed, your provider still has work to do. We're reviewing your history. We're reviewing your physical exam. We're looking at your lab results. We're reviewing imaging reports. We're putting all of those pieces together to answer one important question. Is there an emergency today that needs treatment, admission, additional testing, or is it safe for you to go home? Medicine isn't just looking at one test. It's putting the entire picture together. Sometimes one test leads to another, and this happens every single day. Sometimes the first test answers the question. Sometimes it creates a new question. An X-ray may lead to a CT scan. Lab work may lead to additional blood tests. A CT scan may show something unexpected that another consultation may need to happen. And that's not because something went wrong. That's because medicine is a process. We're following the information as it develops. So, what happens if you leave? Well, if you leave before your evaluation is complete, several things can happen. You may leave before your provider has had the opportunity to review all of your test results. You may miss an important discussion about your diagnosis. You may not receive discharge instructions that could help your recovery. You may leave before a prescription is written, or your provider may have wanted to order another test based on new information that became available after your first test results came back. And the question is, will the hospital call me? Well, patients ask me this all the time. And the honest answer is sometimes. Every emergency department has its own process for following up on important results. If there's a significant finding after you've left, someone from the healthcare team may try to contact you. That's exactly why it's so important to make sure the registration team has your correct phone number and contact information when you check in. If we need to reach you, we can only use the information we have. So taking a few seconds to confirm that your contact information is correct can make a big difference if we need to follow up with you after your visit. Now, from a perspective of the provider, after more than 25 years in emergency medicine, this can be one of the more difficult parts of my job. I've had times when I finally received a patient's test results only to learn they had already left. Sometimes everything is reassuring, but sometimes those results can change what I wanted to do next. Maybe I wanted to order another test, or maybe I wanted to start a medication, or maybe I wanted to have another conversation before sending that person home. When a patient leaves early, we lose the opportunity to have that discussion face to face. I completely understand that waiting in the emergency room can be frustrating. Nobody enjoys waiting, but from a provider's perspective, waiting doesn't always mean nothing is happening. Many times we're waiting on information that helps us make the safest decision for your care. I'd rather take a little extra time to make the right decision than rush you home before we have all the information we need. I hope this helps you better understand what happens behind the scenes if you decide to leave the emergency department before your evaluation is complete. If you've ever had a question about something that happened during an ER visit, leave it in the comments below. I might make it a future episode of ER Real Talk. And as I always like to say, I don't know who will see this video today, tomorrow, or years from now, but this is my perspective based on my experience and the information available at the time I'm sharing this video. Healthcare is always evolving, so always follow the advice of your own healthcare team for your specific situation. Well, until next time, I need you to take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next ER Real Talk. Bye for now.